You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell. Sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Well, welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here at 1150 AM, KKNW, the Saturday, April 9th show. I provide the news on everything money, fresh information on the market trends and conditions in our local economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a broadcast, a rebroadcast of the show, but you can always call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. You can ask any questions to my guest. You can talk with me, your host, give me suggestions of what you'd like to hear on future shows. I'm here to assist with your financing. And right now in studio, I'm going to have a conversation with Holly Furen with RE/MAX Junction. Holly, thanks for coming back in studio.
Thank you for having me again.
And today's market, there's a lot of sellers that have false sense of process of getting top dollar for their home. And regardless of the seller or buyer's market strategy is that regardless of if we're in a seller's market or a buyer's market, the strategy is really critical to get that top dollar. So that is the conversation I'm going to be having with Holly today. And a little background about Holly, a third-generation real estate broker and property manager in Seattle. She has over 20 years of personal experience as property manager. She helps her clients acquire investment properties as well as find tenants for them to manage their rental properties. She appreciates the relationship she develops with her clients. Holly is heavily involved in community service as well as being a Girl Scout troop leader. Did I ever tell you my mom was a Girl Scout troop leader?
I think you did.
I think I did. So, Holly, why don't we start out where, again, we're talking and sharing with my listeners about sellers and how to prepare to sell, obviously, for getting top dollar. So what can sellers do to prepare for selling their homes?
Sure. The first thing that people I often come across have a little bit of a challenge with letting go. And that's the first step is that you really need to find a way to emotionally disconnect and start saying goodbye to the home. So finding things that you won't miss about the house, like that sloping kitchen that's going to be really expensive to fix, or the creaks in the living room that, again, would not be something that you would normally take care of while you're living there. So any annoyance that you've had, if you focus on it enough, you'll find it's far easier to say goodbye. So let yourself grieve the loss.
Makes sense. So what are steps of getting a home ready to sell, Holly?
Sure. After saying goodbye, you need to start cleaning. So putting all the clutter away and keeping everything clean, possibly having professionals come in and help you if you're short on time or if you have an abundance of clutter. Getting your yard trimmed up. Again, if you're short on time and you have a sizable yard, it's good to get people to help you get ready. The more polished you make your home, the more you'll be able to maximize potential market value. And the next step is to have either your furnishings stay, at least some of them, or arrange to have it staged. Once it's staged, a photographer should be hired by your agent to take professional photos of your home. Depending on the size of your home, your agent should be publishing between 10 and 25 quality photos to capture an audience. The more photos that they have, the better it is, of course.
And I think a lot of sellers make, again, I've talked in the beginning of the show about just a false idea of what you need to do because the market is so seller benefit. There's lack of inventory, lots of buyers. So you may feel not the same sense of urgency, which is important because you want to get top dollar. And to do that, you need to do all these things. So saying goodbye, emotionally not being too connected to the process, getting it cleaned up. What about an investment? What is a typical investment that a seller should be prepared to do to get their home ready to sell?
In this market, whether you're buying or selling, I always say to have at least a $10,000 buffer set aside for costs. As a buyer would pay for earnest money and inspections, a seller should pay for things like repairs and things that need to be updated, like maybe some paint and always the staging. Staging is very important. Those are going to be the biggest costs to getting a home ready to sell. If you can get a pre-inspection, it makes the process go so much faster when you already know that what needs to be fixed instead of waiting for to get fixed once it's brought up in an inspection. A buyer would purchase because they can use the flaws as a negotiation tool, and you'll end up repairing the problem anyways. So if you don't have enough, then you just need to prioritize Otherwise, you might find that you need to consider things like getting less than asking price or be forced to short sale, which nobody wants to do that. So you also need to have the time to invest, such as time that you'll have to live in the house, but make the mortgage payments, or when you're not living in the house, rather, and paying for those utilities that accumulate over the time. But of course, in this market, it's unusual to go past a week or two on the market.
Yeah. So just really, really preparing and being willing to invest to get that top dollar, understand what your home has. And so we've talked about staging. You've mentioned that a couple times, whether you're leaving the really nice things behind or you're bringing in a professional stager to make that house look the best that it can. So how important is that really during this process in this type of market?
Honestly, it can be the difference of tens of thousands of dollars. For example, an owner who delayed staging his home and avoided simple maintenance could have even changed out a few light fixtures to improve the value, but he kept putting it off until the day the photographer was scheduled to arrive and nothing had been done. So we shot the photos of empty rooms and tried to make them look as good as possible, but the house could have sold in days, actually stayed on the market for several weeks. And finally, when I got a few offers, they were both $20,000 under asking price, which was already below the market price that we listed at. So had he put the staging and the repairs as a priority, he would have been able to maximize his investment and easily make back the invested on the staging and repairs, in addition to probably more than asking price.
Yeah, so it's important to have it show, have that emotional connection there, and that's where the staging comes in, and really get that connection to the home. So what about the process for selling, Holly?
Sure. The first thing you start with is creating a seller disclosure. I think a lot of people struggle with that. They sometimes don't know what to say, but it's really important when it comes across to the buyer. That is a form that the seller will fill out and indicate everything that they know about the home. When we move on to preparation of getting the house ready, once the home is staged, and the agent should schedule a day for the photographs. A few days after, your agent will launch the marketing and make the listing live. Open houses should be scheduled, and you can expect agents to bring buyers to your home throughout. And if you're still living there, the agent will mention that they will either contact you directly to make appointments to view, and if you're not there, a key box will be attached to the property, and this will allow agents to view your home. A key box should be on your home if you are still living there, as well as agents should use it to register their visits. Your listing agent might anticipate multiple offers and might add a due date for offers on the listing. That way you'll have a specific time when you can look at all the offers and discuss with your agent which one is best to maximize your investment and close the fastest.
Makes sense. So how do you advise your sellers, Holly, when there is an open house that you're going to be scheduling and they ask if they should be there to answer questions for the potential buyers that are coming in?
Yeah, I always say don't be there.
Yes.
Sellers should try to avoid being in the home. Not only does it make the buyers nervous, it can reduce your chances to sell if the buyers start asking questions and the sellers answer and scare them away, which has happened.
Yeah.
It's best to plan on being away from the home during the times that you allow agents to show, and the open houses as well.
Got it. So in this multiple offer environment, you've got 10 offers on one home with your seller. How are you helping them to decide which offer to accept?
Sure. If it's one offer and it's low, we might discuss declining that offer if it's worth waiting. It really depends on what the seller's motivation is. In the Seattle market, a low offer can happen on homes that have been on the market for a long time, but usually a house is not on the market that long and can draw several offers and sometimes cash. It's difficult to beat a cash offer if you look at the big picture. Things can fall apart with contingencies. The least amount of contingencies or other risks, the better the offer is. Mm-hmm. Top dollar doesn't always win. If there's a top dollar offer with contingency of a home that needs to sell in some remote place where the market is slow, and that might not be as good as the cash offer that'll close in 30 days, which is slightly less in price. So it's a big picture scenario.
Yeah, and it's so important for the sellers to have that understanding of really where the benefit's going to be and the biggest chance that closing is going to make it all the way through the process to the end. So other ways to maximize a seller's return, Holly?
The more people invest, and the more they will maximize. So if they invest too much, they could be causing themselves to lose. I know of a woman who decided she wanted to take the time to pick out new carpeting. And most people don't even like carpet. So she spent an entire summer remodeling, and that was in the summer of 2007 when the market started to take a dive. She ended up losing about $200,000 in value just because she missed that opportunity to sell in the summer. As it was up to $800,000, she only got $600,000. Then there's a story of a guy, this is common, so we'll call him Everyday Joe. So Everyday Joe has sparkles in his eyes. He looks at the skewed estimates on Zillow and hears that a house that's listed for $600,000 sold for $800,000 in his neighborhood. So he goes and gets an agent to list his dilapidated teardown that will never appraise with the lender for no less than $400,000 when the place is only worth $300,000. So if you minimize your market by pricing your home too high, then you cannot maximize your return. And routine maintenance and keeping fixtures up to date is key to maximizing your potential value. Property will always increase in value.
Yeah, so pricing and not pricing correctly can be devastating either way. You price too low or pricing too high can be a devastating outcome. So how do you coach your sellers and help them come up with that price that they should list at?
Yeah, they can start with getting a comparable market analysis from their agent, and they should ask other agents for additional market analysis to compare those. Some agents have drastically different values, and they have reasons behind those values. Agents don't usually charge for that service, so it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. They can give you a price range and suggestions on how to price your home to maximize your return. You don't need an appraisal. I hear often people think they need one, but that's not necessary. And that a lender will order an appraisal for the buyer, so that's something that comes down the road. A lot of people get the appraisal mixed up with a comparable market analysis or a CMA, and it's virtually the same thing. A CMA is what is created in order to determine value. An appraisal is a little bit more involved because they might look at specific things like peeling paint if it's an FHA loan or something that's going to cause them to not fund that loan.
Of course. A couple minutes I need to take us to break, Holly. What other advice can you give for sellers in preparing to put their house on the market?
Yeah, just as buying a house or selling a house, you should have a solid team. Your listing agent usually will suggest a title and escrow company, which is part of your team. Sometimes the listing agent will hold open houses with lenders on hand to help buyers answer questions they have quickly. Or they will distribute invitations to neighbors, inviting them to open houses. And a good listing agent will maximize the viewing opportunities. So having an agent that is available to take special care of your home is crucial. Some agents are spread out very thin, and other times people are quick to use family or friends who are agents just because they know them, but they might not have all the techniques to maximize your return like some well-seasoned agents have.
Experience is so important in every area regarding your financing, and real estate is no different. Holly, thank you so much for joining me back in studio. Appreciate your wealth of information for all my sellers out there. Coming up next in the Money Hour, real estate's a hot topic, and there's a lot of advice on how to navigate through the environment, but the wrong advice can be the biggest financial mistake that you make. That's why I've got Greg Prill here with Coldwell Banker Bain right here at 11:50 a.m. KKNW after this short break.